Greetings, fellow grown-ups who collect plastic things. In today's video, I decided it was time to go big or go home. I mean, I'm already home, so I guess it's go big and stay home? The point is, I want to talk about the 3 leader class figures from the Dark of the Moon Mechtech line. Bumblebee, Ironhide, and my absolute favorite, Sentinel Prime. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Transformers figures were just more fun in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And these 3 fantastic figures, in my opinion, exemplify that Bayverse era's formidable challenge of mixing form, function, and most importantly, fun with admittedly often excessively complex engineering. They didn't always succeed, to be sure, but when they did, the results were pretty awesome. And that's why I want to talk about Bumblebee, Ironhide, and Sentinel Prime. And I want to shoot them in a way that best displays their awesomeness. But I did have a problem. I mean, my normal setup for filming with my pretty small glass desk was simply not going to work for these 3 leader class figures. But hey, that's where the sponsor of today's video comes to the rescue, FlexiSpot. With my previous desk, I was constantly running out of space and juggling figures and equipment around, and quite often, the figures themselves would fall off the desk, and I have to say I've lost more than a few accessories that way. Look, as a Transformers reviewer, to me, space is everything. I need lots of room to set up the figures, especially leader class figures like these. Room to pose them and transform them in a comfortable way, and to get clean and interesting shots from many different angles. Fortunately, the folks at FlexiSpot sent me this amazing E2L standing desk, and it gives me all the room I need. I can film larger figures like Superion with ease and create more expansive and immersive scenes, and still have plenty of room for my cameras and lighting. The L-shaped surface is 63 by 39 inches, giving me plenty of space for leaders like Megatronus. I can even flip the L panel to the left or right side depending on where I need it, so in my case it fits my room layout perfectly. And the best part is it's height adjustable. The dual motor system makes the whole process smooth and quiet, staying under 50 decibels. It's so smooth in fact that I can move the whole thing mid-shot without disturbing the figures. Basically, this amazing desk can transform, pun intended, from a comfortable sitting position at 28.9 inches to 48.2 inches tall. And the industrial grade steel frame and solid desktop hold up to 220 pounds. The super convenient LED panel allows me to create presets, so with one touch I can go from sitting to standing or whatever height I might need to get the perfect shot. It's really fantastic. The desk is backed, by the way, by a 5-year warranty on the frame and motors, plus 2 years on the electronics, so this is going to be part of my setup for a long time. It makes filming smoother, easier, and seriously just more fun. And the adjustable height means I can quickly switch between sitting and standing depending on the shots I need. This especially means that gone are the days of reaching around my phone in an awkward position to perform a complex transformation. Now I can adjust the height to whatever I need. So if you're like me and you want more space for your hobby, your work, or just to get organized, I highly recommend checking out the FlexiSpot desks. So feel free to click the link in the description to check out everything FlexiSpot has to offer on Amazon. And thank you so much to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Who's a cute kitty? We're going to start out with Bumblebee right here, and I'm going to start out with him in his alt mode. We're going to quickly transform him to robot mode. I say quickly, we'll see how that works out. And we're going to talk about all the features of his robot mode, and then we're going to transform him back to his alt mode. Because when I look online, I notice when this first came out, and even some reviews since then, most people tend to show the transformation from alt mode to robot, which is the easier transformation. It's understandable. But I've always had a lot of trouble, or I used to have a lot of trouble, transforming him back to the alt mode. So I wanted to show a very clear transformation back to alt mode. So that's what we're going to do eventually. But first we're going to talk about his robot mode. So to do that, we have to get there first. So I'm going to do my best to remember that process. And with most Bumblebees and car transformers, it tends to start with opening the doors, of course. So we're going to do that. We're going to pull this bit off and move that up out of the way. And then we're going to bring this bit down. We're going to separate the legs and kind of bend them back down. You'll notice when we transform him back, that's an important step. But for now, we can kind of move these kind of hip guards out of the way. And then we can pull the feet down. Right here, we want to fold out the toe, fold out the heel. fix the foot up. So we're going to get the other toe out, the heel back. And then once we have his legs stretched out, we can bring the shin guards around. Move the feet into place kind of where you want them. And you're going to move those around when you're trying to make them stand anyway. And then we can kind of fold these down. Again, kind of do it how you like. Kind of like them, kind of like that. We're going to keep this flap down. Next thing we're going to do is, I believe, yeah, let's pull apart the hood. Lift that up out of the way. Then we can take his arms, pull them out, stretch them out. That's why it's easier to transform, especially these big leader class figures. It's a lot easier to transform them from alt mode to robot because it's mostly just stretching everything back out again. Another important step here for Bumblebee is he's elongated for car mode, so you just kind of push him down. I was actually stopping that right there from sliding down, so that was on me. It's not normally that hard. But anyway, you kind of compress him back down, and then you can start working on bringing the hood down. The tires are going to pop out on either side. And then, let's see, straighten up the legs. Again, just so we can kind of get them out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to want to take the hood with the tires and everything out of the way. Well, first, actually, before you do that, these flaps, you can lift them up. These flaps are kind of an optional part of the transformation, but they will pull up. So now is a good time before you snap them in place to get underneath here. Kind of lift up on that flap and you can push it back. Same thing with the other side. Do it now. Get that out of the way. And then the next step you see is we have the little slots right here that the hood is going to slide into. Just a matter of kind of pushing them into place. They will go in there with a little finagling like that. And then this breastplate will come up, and these two tabs here will go into here in these slots and lock everything into place nicely. And that's the beauty of these Mechtech leaders. You might not think it at first, and you might think, well, bayformers, whatever, but they all mostly, for the most part, snap into place quite satisfactorily. So now the arm here is going to go in here and pop that into place, and then you can kind of start to shape the arm how you want it. Same thing on the other side. The trick is to kind of support the back of it because it is a little tricky getting these to pop in. But get it in there. You notice I'm elongating the body again, but they will snap in satisfactorily, but you got to get them in there first. There we go. Now see what I did there? Stretch them back out. We'll push them back down. There we go. Lift it up. There we go. Feel that snap? That was fantastic. Okay, so then we can start to clean things up a bit, but there's another great step back here, important step, is that the this part bends down. You can see it right here. We'll come down, bring this bit up here, and this can come up and over, and we'll lock into place right here, like that. And so that stays locked in nicely. See, it's a struggle, and it feels awkward until suddenly everything has snapped into place, and then you're in pretty good shape, and then you have a pretty cool figure. But again, I think that might have popped out on me again because I was putting pressure somewhere else. So there we go. It's locked in again. So now I think we're good with Bumblebee. Just need to clean him up a bit. But anyway, that's the basic idea of getting him transformed into his amazing robot mode. And so I love all three of these figures, but I have to say there's a bit more nostalgia, at least for Bumblebee, because Bumblebee came out, or I'm sorry, the movies came out when my two sons were just the right age to start being interested in Transformers. So this Bumblebee was actually a gift for my sons, for my oldest, but of course they both put in a lot of time playing with it. And this is kind of the Bumblebee and the Transformers '07 movie, and then later Revenge of the Fallen and more Dark of the Moon was when they were both really a good age to enjoy this stuff. That was their introduction into Transformers, and it's actually kind of what got me back into Transformers. So specifically with this one, we've had him since he came out originally, and that's what makes him extra special to me. And also, he's just an incredibly special figure. If you look at the detailing, everything about this figure is just really incredible. At the size, the engineering and everything, and we can take a closer look at that before we work on the transformation. Let's start with those dark, piercing eyes and that incredibly detailed face sculpt. And even though my figure is older, that yellow paint job still pops against the dark metal machinery. He poses pretty well for his size and complexity, and when I see him next to Ironhide, how I wish there was a Leader Class Dino and Sideswipe to go with him. They look incredible together. Honestly, I don't know how anyone can have a problem with this incredible figure. But now, before we transform him back to his alt mode, let's return to the big desk and check out his weapons, gimmicks, and articulation. Well, a leader class figure does require a leader class weapon, and that's what we get with Bumblebee's Mechtech weapon. This thing is huge and absolutely insane, but it is cool. So it's got some lights and sounds to it and has a fun little pop-up feature. You slide this forward and get that classic sound. You get the lights. You move this forward. All sorts of fun, crazy sounds. It should work over here. Remember, this thing is pretty old. There we go. Of course, move this up. So it just sounds for days. Now, of course, this can go on his alt mode, which we'll show in a bit, but it will actually go on the robot mode as well, and it looks pretty insane. And surprisingly, even with this on, he will stand up. Now, there is a trick to this that honestly no one else probably needs to know but me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Every time I tried to put this on his back, whether in robot or alt mode, I focused mostly on these big chunky tabs right here, thinking these really need to shove in there and click into place or it's not going to work. And so I would push these really hard, but it would never stay in place really well. What I didn't realize was the important tabs are these tabs right here. I mean, I should have. They're right there and they're huge, right? But for some reason, I just didn't focus on it too much, especially in the dad days when I was just trying to transform him quickly. But the point is, these are the tabs you need to worry about, and this will just fit into place nicely if these tabs click in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab Bumblebee. You have to kind of reposition his doors a little bit for this. But basically you need to pop him back up. And then kind of set these to the side like this. And then we're going to take these two tabs here. And we're going to push them into these slots on the top of the car here. So that's what you really need to focus on. And when you do that, you want to kind of hook it in like this. That's how everything's going to go. But basically, we're going to put a thumb here and a middle finger here. And we're going to let those bottoms sit in here, but we're going to focus on getting those tabs into the slots. And once I have them in place, right, just like that. And once they're in, clicked in there, this isn't going anywhere. And then you can kind of fix it up a little bit, however you want it to look. Put the doors back out a little bit, and there you go. And now the main thing when it comes to dealing with Bumblebee is the ankles matter. And so when I first try to stand him up and he kind of wobbles back, I might need to adjust his ankles and give the feet a little click forward like that. It'll kind of shift the weight on him a little bit and he might stand a little more awkward, but then we can put his legs back and lock him in. And then with that, he should be pretty good to go. Just like that. Now I can tell he's not super steady, but this is getting the job done. But again, it really is a matter of focusing on the ankles and the feet and the heels. You might have to snap the ankles forward a little bit, but once you do, he becomes generally pretty steady and you're good to go. And doesn't he look cool like this? It's insane, but it's awesome, and it's a big, fun toy. Like I say over and over again, I miss fun toys, and Bumblebee is just fun like this. To remove this, we're just going to pop it back off the back. And now I want to quickly talk about articulation. I think most people are going to know that even in this, 2010 era, you know, we didn't have the sort of articulation as good as we have it now, but especially on these larger figures, but it's not bad either. So going through some of the articulation, his head can move left and right pretty well. In fact, I think in theory it could go all the way around, but obviously these panels are going to get in the way, and why would you want to do that? He's not possessed. But the arms can kind of swing up to here, come down to here, forward, back. Nice little arm bend. You got the cannon here. Oh my gosh, and there are more gimmicks there we need to talk about. Legs can swing forward pretty far, back pretty far. You got a little hip bend there that sort of accounts for knee bend, but you know, it's up kind of high. but that's just sort of the design. And then of course, like I said, I'm talking about ankles right here. So it's like where the knee would be, there's not really a bend. You have this sort of hip bend, and then you have the ankles here, kind of a two-part bend for the ankles. Same thing over here, obviously. And the arm, you have this decently articulated hand. The thumb can move separately, and the fingers can move. He's got 4 fingers total. A little odd, but that's the way it is. So that's kind of the general idea of the articulation. It's not bad, but he is a huge figure. And I'm sorry, I'm not the best about talking about articulation. I don't tend to focus too much on it, but that gives you an idea of it. But for some more gimmicks, one, the cannon will actually pop out. You can pull it out like that and get a nice, more elongated cannon there. And then this bit here can actually slide out to give him a sword, or, you know, his sort of blades he had, so you can kind of do that. Same thing, I think, no, not over here. Okay, just the one side will do that, but anyway, you could do that with it out or in like that, but kind of give him his blades. The other thing, I literally only learned this year, like I'm talking a couple weeks ago, is that he actually, he can switch to the battle armor, and the helmet can slide down. So if you kind of grip it right up here, push it down, you've got his mask on. I literally just learned that a couple weeks ago. But anyway, that's a fun little touch on him as well. So again, gimmicks and gimmicks. That's what we like about these big Mechtech leader figures. They just have so much fun, so many weird gimmicks, and so many cool things you can do with them that just increase the playability and just make them a lot more joy to mess around with. Let's go ahead and look at his transformation back into alt mode, which is generally the tougher one. And like I say, I haven't seen this done a lot online, so I just wanted to make sure there was a good video up here that shows you how to do it. So let's walk through that now. First, let's press those flaps back into place, then we can detach the backpack, and then we can pull the chest piece off of the chest plate. Next, you can swish the hip guards around, but we'll come back to those again anyway. Then you just want to slide the shin guards out of the way. Then you can start working on the feet by pushing the heel in and pressing the toe in as well. Compress the heel back just like this, and it'll kind of ratchet into place. And then we can press the rest of the tire up. But here's the important part. This little nubbin right here needs to go into that slot. So when you push in, you want to make sure that that piece goes into the little cavity right there. And as long as it's in the right place, the wheel will kind of snap into place, and you're pretty much good to go on that side. Now switching to the other foot, of course, we're just going to repeat the process. And I have to say, what I like about this transformation, there were so many Dark of the Moon Deluxe figures, and I think I have most of them, of Bumblebee, and it feels a lot like those. Now there were a few different molds from Dark of the Moon, even they reused Revenge of the Fallen and I think a mold from the first movie. But regardless, they all sort of have this general vibe of transformation. Now coming back to those hip flaps, you'll notice they don't seem to be in place. Well, you have to bend at this joint right here. And if you do that right and they slot in there perfectly, then you're good. That's the beauty of this engineering. If the flap doesn't connect properly, you don't have the joint bent the way you need to get it bent. So once it's actually correct and fits, you know you've done it right. So with both of those in place, we could press the back two legs together, but we're actually going to hold off for now, because the next step we want to do is kind of elongate Bumblebee a bit. So kind of pull him from the middle like that, and you see he stretches out a bit, and that will give you more space to push the back half together. And once you have that in place, then you can kind of go and make sure the hip flaps are still where they need to be, but you'll come back to those a few times. The nature of these larger transformers is things are going to move out of place as you do other things, so keep an eye on them and keep them in place the best you can. Next thing we're going to do is pull the hood back. And again, when we correctly bent that joint before to make the hip flaps fit into place, if we've done all that right, this should slide right into place fairly easily. Don't forget to push that bit down. But then you can compress this down. There are several tabs to kind of snap it in place. And you might have to fiddle with it a little bit, lift one side or the other side to get those tabs to properly connect. But I promise you, once you do, everything is going to fit together tightly, and you're going to know you've done it right. And it's really satisfying. I'm going to say that word over and over again. This transformation is great, and things do lock in well. And our next step will be to pull the arms out of the shoulders. You can see, like I did on that one, do that on both sides. The tab is pretty strong, so it might take a little force, but just yank those out and move them down and out of the way. And once you've done that, of course, you can move the tires back into place on both sides. First the right one and then the left one. And once you've done that, then you can kind of take the whole hood assembly and just move it back up over behind his head as much as you can, and maybe lift the doors up out of the way, because now we're going to work on the arms. And the arms can be the most difficult part for people, but that's why I'm going to show you exactly how to do these correctly. The first thing you want to do, of course, is fold the hand down, and then once you've done that, fold at the elbow so that the yellow guards are both on the outside, and make sure it looks exactly like this. This is what you're going to need. And then you just need to do this little twist to move the brown arm around so it's tucked in like that. And you notice the longer pieces on the bottom, that's how you want to tuck this in, and it should slide right into place. On the other side, we're going to do the exact same thing. Now, sometimes these joints, especially right, see where I'm twisting it around here, that might not be, you might have shifted it at some point during the transformation process, but it needs to be pushed out just like that. So then you can do that fold correctly, and you can have those yellow guards on the outside. And then you can start to twist the arm around like I did there, and then tuck the longer piece underneath just like that. And again, if you've done everything right, it should slide right into place pretty easily. I'm just straightening things up to make sure it goes in there properly. But they fit in there really well. And by the way, there are tabs in there I didn't show, but there are so many tabs in this process that some of them you don't even necessarily need to make sure you hit, but they are there to lock everything into place. And there's a really good look at exactly how those arms should sit in there. So if you're doing this for yourself, that should help you out. And now once you have those arms tucked away really well, the last part is pretty easy. You just start building the hood and pushing everything together. Those gray bits underneath, notice there are little notches there that'll press into place. Again, there's so many big, thick tabs on this thing to hold everything in place. I love it. But press the hood together like that. Once you've done that, the doors, you just kind of lift them up and press them down to move them into place, and then they should just click right into place. Same thing on the other side. Shift the door in and then down and then push it together. And again, the last part is just push up the breastplate on the bottom, and once you're done, I mean, just look how good this thing looks. There are just almost no seams. To go from the robot mode where it was to this is just incredible. I mean, I'm just blown away by this engineering. I don't think this particular mode gets enough credit for being a great figure. It's so satisfying to transform. And this alt mode 2011 concept Camaro is legendary, and we all know it. There's just no denying it. This car looks fantastic. And I love this particular size. I do have from the 2007 movie the much larger leader class. I'm not even sure it was leader. It might have been ultimate. And that thing is way too big. This is kind of the perfect size as a toy. It doesn't scale well with a lot of other figures because there aren't many leaders at this size, but it's just incredible. And honestly, we've already spent too much time with Bumblebee, and that should be all for this great figure. But there is, in fact, one more thing that we have to talk about real quick, and that is probably my favorite gimmick with this vehicle. So, of course, his giant Mechtech weapon backpack also goes onto the vehicle in alt mode. And just like before, you got to be careful and make sure you use those tabs. And you can snap him into the vehicle just like this, and that's certainly one way to do it, and it does look pretty cool. I mean, come on, how is this for playability? And that's super cool as is, but we want to put this guy into stealth mode. And I suppose more accurately, it would be called stealth force mode. It's that in-between mode we saw in Dark of the Moon. And to put Bumblebee into stealth force mode, first you have to open the doors on each side like this and just kind of lift them up out of the way. And then for the next step, what you want to do is come around to the front of the car, and you want to carefully pry each side of the front end of the car away from the vehicle itself, and then kind of slide them forward. So they're going to look just like that. And then next we need to come underneath, and the first thing we want to do is move that breastplate out of the way. And then we're just going to extend the arm all the way out carefully, and then pull this bit out like this. So the yellow parts just line up together like that. And now I'm going to switch to the other side because I messed this side up. So while the left arm is sitting in the wrong position, let me show you how to do it correctly with the right one. So all you want to do is click it about 3 clicks to the right, just like that. Then you can extend it out, and you see that post, you're going to put that into the port right there, just like that. So I had to come around to the other side once I realized I'd messed it up, and it was a pretty quick fix. It's just twisting it around so it's in the right way. But again, those brown arms, you want to make sure that they are situated just like you see here in the video. Once they're in the correct spot, then the port should go right into the slot, and you're just fine. Finally, we can come around to the side of the car, and now you'll notice there's a port on the under the door, and there's a post on the arm, so that should push right into place on the arm. And so just like in alt mode and vehicle mode, everything just snaps in very well and it holds together tightly. So even in stealth force mode, they thought it out, and they have these big, solid, chunky ports and tabs that just makes everything fit together so well. Again, one of the many reasons I absolutely love this figure. And yeah, I did struggle a little bit getting all this ported in, but once it was in, it was locked into place. And then of course you can twist the arms around and kind of have some fun with them. Bring that one forward just like that. You can bring the cannon arm around, and then you probably want to go ahead and just extend that cannon to make it look that much cooler. And after that, it's just a matter of lining everything up to make it look as good as possible and to make sure he'll sit flat on the surface. And then once we've done all that, then we can go ahead and add his Mechtech backpack weapon. And once you have that firmly clicked into place on the back of Bumblebee, you now have him in full stealth force mode, and he looks insane and amazing. So that's it. That's about all for Bumblebee. Obviously, I love this figure, not just because of the nostalgia, that's a big part of it, but it's just a great toy. It's a great collector's item. He's fun to play with, and he poses really well and looks awesome on the shelf. So what do you think about Bumblebee? Do you love this guy? Do you hate him? Please let me know. And remember, in part 2, we're going to talk about fan favorite IRONHIDE.